I'm Skylar Knickerbocker. I'm going to be moderating the session. We had a little bit of a scheduling conflict, so I'm going to fill in for Pat. We got a great group of presenters. We got 4 of them for the second session on using visualization to improve transportation safety. We'll get started with the first presentation from Chenhui. Chenhui received his master's degree in transportation engineering from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in 2014 and his PhD in transportation engineering and statistics from Iowa State University in 2018. He worked at Iowa State University as a research associate from August 2017 to August 2018, and since then he's worked as a National Research Council Fellow at Turner Fairbanks. His interests are in traffic safety, traffic signal control, traffic simulation, and statistics. Currently, he's working on exploring driving behavior at intersections with naturalistic driving data. And I had the pleasure of being able to work with Chenhui while he was a student at Iowa State, so I look forward to the presentation. Chenhui.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chenhui Liu. Just to make a little more brief introduction. I'm a National Research Council Fellow working in the Turner Fairbanks Highway Research Center of Federal Highway Agency in the McLean, Virginia. And my current project is analyzing the driver behavior at the intersections with naturalistic driving data. So today my topic is learning the normal acceleration and deceleration profiles of vehicles at a high-speed environment with the naturalistic driving data. This is a collaboration work with my supervisor, Dr. VIZ19. And this project was funded by the Federal Highway Administration. So firstly, about the background of this research, we know the vehicle acceleration and deceleration profile have very broad applications in the transportation industry. We need this information in the roadway geometric design, the traffic simulation, and also the traffic signal timing. And especially recently, it is also the critical part of developing the autonomous vehicles, because we generally want the autonomous vehicles can drive like the human drivers rather than some the mechanical robot. So that way we can make the riders feel very comfortable. So in terms of this topic, actually there are some already some studies, but I think the major issues of these studies is their data are not so good in terms of the current view. So these data have many issues, and there are some issues like many of these studies collect the data maybe 50 or 60 years ago of the vehicles, but as time goes, the vehicle, the roadway, and even the driver training program have changed. So we may think the driver acceleration and the deceleration behavior may have changed. And another thing is, many of this data are collected in the experiment environment. For example, some data are collected in the enclosed campus or the highway sections. So the point is this data is essentially is not naturalist. So we cannot 100% if they are matched with the reality. And another 2 things is most of these studies using collecting the data at the low speed environment. That means most of this data are lower than the 50 miles per hour. But here in our case, we are more interested in the high speed environment. And the final thing is, another thing is in many the data collection process of farm studies, they cannot exclude many confounding factors. For example, some people collect the data at their meteor on ramp, but the question is we know the driver behavior influenced a lot by their meteor on ramp. If you have the meteor ramping control and that issues. So in terms of this, the component is how do we collect the large scale normal acceleration and deceleration naturalistic driving data. Here we use the data from the safety pilot model deployment. This project is originally funded by the multiple agencies of US DOT. Is to test the DSRC-based V2S communication technologies for connected vehicle safety. The project was conducted from 2012 to 2013 in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and it recruited about 3,000 vehicles. And they installed all kinds of devices on the vehicle. So as long as the vehicle is in operation, the vehicle driver information and the vehicle kinematic information are collected. So the point is why we want to use this data. Just because this data have multiple advantages. The first, it is a true naturalistic driven data. Currently, actually, we do not have many naturalistic driven data set available now. And the second, it has very rich information. Here, the information, the data we use in our study is called the basic safety message. It generally is, the message is used for when the vehicle in operation, it will continuously send this information about the vehicle's latitude, longitude, speed, and acceleration. That information to our side. So, and also the vehicle will record this information. So with this information, and also this information is recorded at high resolution, is about a 10 Hz frequency. So it means we use this data, we can rebuild very refined vehicle trajectories. And also it have a very large scale data set. Currently, they have more than 500,000 trips, about 2 months data. And the most important, the data set is free. Some people, you may know that some people using naturalistic driven data like the SHAP2 data, but we know SHAP2 is not free. And also, there's sometimes the data requesting process is very lengthy. So that's another beauty of the SPMD data. So for our project is, the first question is after determining the data set is why we can find the vehicle acceleration and deceleration behaviors. So the point is why the vehicles might stop and start. So yes, I think most people may figure it out. Yes, at intersections. So the question is at what kind of intersections? We have signalized intersection, we have two-way control intersection, we even have the roundabout. And our point is we are focusing the always stop control intersection. The reason is at always stop control intersections, all drivers are legally required to stop first and then enter the intersection, and they will leave by the first come, first go rules. So in this way, we want to just to reduce the external confounding factor. So for our project, finally, we selected about for intersections around the Ann Arbor area. This is for intersections. I will give a close look at one intersections. So when we see this intersection, this is a type of intersection. This intersection is actually in the rural area. It is on the two-way, two-lane intersections. It is right angle intersections. And also it have no big other intersection or the building around by. So we just want to minimize all the possible confounding effect. So to make sure this is the acceleration and deceleration data profile is the most normal and naturalistic one. So after determining these locations, we use we extract all the trips passing through this intersection. And after getting the data, we just rebuild this trip trajectories. So this is an example this is an example trajectory we built. This is a trip from the north to the south part, passing this always stop control intersection. And the green color means this is the speed is high, the red color means it's low. So when the vehicles approaching the intersection, so the vehicle will decelerate, and then after passing the intersection, the vehicle will have very sharp acceleration and leave. If we see for the right side is the vehicle speed and the acceleration rate profile when they approaching the intersection, with access is the distance to the intersection. So from this one, it may be more clear when the vehicle closes the intersection, they have a sharp deceleration, and then after passing the intersection point, stop bar, they will have very sharp acceleration and then leave. After that, we just plot all the trajectories together, and we may see from this profile, this is another speed profile of all the trips. So what we can find is, if ideally in the free flow conditions, we believe the vehicle should have high speed when they are away from the intersection. But we do have some trips or trajectories, when they are still very far away from the intersection, their speed is very low. So generally think is this vehicle not in the free flow. They may have some special issues. Most common we believe is the car following conditions. So we exclude this data because as we said before, we want to figure out the most common one that is free flow and no external confounding factors. So we set some criteria to remove this data. And this is the final data set after the data cleaning. We can see for our data set, for this one, we can see, okay, generally we can think these strips are conducted in the free flow conditions. And with a closing section, very sharp deceleration and very sharp acceleration of leaving the intersection. So finally, we just plot all the trajectories around this, crossing these 4 intersections. And totally we have about 1399 trips from the 393 driver, the 319, nearly 400 vehicles. So this is all the data we got from the data side. And another thing is because we believe for the acceleration profile, the vehicle's turning direction may also influence their acceleration profile. For example, we think the right turn and the left turn vehicles may have slightly different acceleration profiles. So also, we figure out there are left turning, right turning, and through traffic. And all these things figure out use a lot of visualizing tools. And all our analysis here you see is finished in R. It is totally free. And so this is the final acceleration and the deceleration profiles of these strips of our data set. So first we want to make a basic understanding what kind of acceleration and the deceleration profiles this vehicle have. So first you may see from our data we can find, okay, our cases, our data is generally high speed. For our vehicles, the average approaching speed is around 50 miles per hour. The leaving speed is also around 50 miles per hour. So it's both is high speed. This is not done before, and I will show you later why this high speed is so important. Another thing is can provide some information for future researchers is it can show you is for high speed deceleration and acceleration profile, it may need about 46 seconds to finish the whole process, and the length about around 2,300 feet. The reason why this information is important because some others researchers also conduct similar studies, but they only collect this data maybe just 250 feet close to the stop bar. The point is if you collect just this fraction of data, you actually cannot cover completely acceleration or deceleration process. So that means if you use it, maybe you want somebody use the profile for autonomous vehicles, because actually cannot figure out how they should do before after AWSC range. And another thing is, because this is always stop intersection, what we really care about is whether the vehicles is really stop or not, because stop sign running is another very important causes of traffic crisis in the United States. So from this view, you may see, okay, it's very clear most of the vehicle will decelerate, but the point is if the vehicles are completely stopped. So we just plot a histogram of the minimum speed of this vehicle at the intersection. So what we found here actually most of the vehicles, they are running through the stop sign with very low speed, but only about 10% of the vehicles completely stop. So our understanding is that most people know the risk of not stopping at the stop sign, but the question is most people still tend to run past it as far as possible, as soon as possible. So this really may seem very low, but it's actually very consistent with many studies conducted before. The completely full stop rate at the all stop intersection is always very low in the United States. And this figure shows the acceleration rate profile when the vehicles closing to the intersection. So from this one, we actually can see is when the vehicle closes to the intersection, there the deceleration rate will increases and achieve some maximum point. And then they will have very sharp deceleration rate decreases. And this is stop bar. And after passing stop bar, they will have very sharp acceleration and quickly reach to another maximum acceleration rate point. And then their acceleration rate will decelerate and then leave the intersection. So for the acceleration rate profile, what we care about is the maximum one, because the maximum one will determine whether the risk of crisis and also the rider's riding experience, whether it's comfortable riding or not. So that is we cover is maximum acceleration and deceleration rate. So what we found is here this data shows the maximum deceleration rate. What we found is actually the average deceleration maximum deceleration rate is 8.6 feet per square second, and the 85% the quantile of the data is 10.5. So we can compare this to our current some criteria. In the green book, in the green book is about 11.2, in the IPE is about 10. So I would say it's very close, but it may still need some changes. And another thing is if you see the acceleration and the deceleration, we can find is the deceleration values is always larger than the acceleration. So that means actually when people making the deceleration is always more sharply than the acceleration. And another thing is we want to figure out how the approach speed will influence the driver's acceleration and deceleration profile. So for this figure, the upper one is showing the deceleration profile. So based on the approach speed, we just categorize the data by the 5 miles per hour increment. So this is showing the duration. So we can find is with the increases of the speed, approach speed, there are deceleration durations increases, but after passing 50 to 55 miles per hour, their deceleration durations do not increase. They actually consist around 22.5 seconds, but for their deceleration distance, they always increasing. And also, if you see their maximum deceleration rate also at the 50 and 50 miles per hour, they will have a jump. That before that, the maximum deceleration rate at a value, but after that is will very sharply suddenly jump to another value. That's why we see the importance of we doing the high speed, because the high speed and low speed actually they are different things. So you probably cannot use your low speed cases to be interpolated to the high speed cases. So after that, we just want to model that one. So they have a lot of existing models. And here we select is called the nonlinear models, because as you can see before, in the wholly deceleration acceleration profile, their speed and distance or speed and time, their relation, it actually shows some curve relationships. So we build the model separately for deceleration and acceleration. This is for the deceleration part. So we just filled some common use model, and the final model is our use. I think probably not use too much in the research is we use random effect log normal. So based on our parameters indicator, we think this model is best. No matter in the mainly in the fitness to the real data, this is best. And we can see after fitting the data, we can see for the different models if we plot with the real data to see how their differences. So in this, if you see this figure, we can see the random effect log model is actually fit the best. Even it still have some problem, but it's still the best. For some others, which is the formula use either linear or the second order polynomial. If you see that one, these two models use the most because they are fit well for the low speed cases, but for high speed, they totally deviate from the real profiles. And also we do the same studies for the acceleration profile. And the good thing is for the high speed, because for the acceleration profile is more gentle, it's not so sharp. Actually, our model fit is much better. You can see nearly it's the log random effect log model is nearly in the middle of the observed trajectories. So the point is this profile data, these profile models maybe can use in the future if you want to put it into other smooth vehicles, how they should behave when they approaching our sub-intersection. These models maybe can be very good references. So for our research, I think visualization is really important for our data, because our data essentially is the trajectory data. If you want to analyze the trajectory data from the data collection, the data verification, the data anomaly data detection, all these things you need visualizing tools, although they are different. And especially if you want to visualize them, on the Google Map or that kind of things, it's very beautiful and also very practical. And also we got some, very important, I think, information for you to learn about their acceleration and descent profiles. And we are also want to use this one in the future studies. Currently, we are doing one thing is we want to do the dynamic models, so because we want to make animations, so we can visually so all the things on the maybe on online, so other people can check our data set, because this data set is essentially free. So we also plan to share our data online with others. So we will make some animation tools for us guys to check it. And also another is we are trying to see, okay, how we can use this profile of models into the real autonomous vehicle driving, the driving the algorithm. And another thing is we also think about the more complex situation. The always stop control intersection at the rural area is the most, I think it's probably the simplest environment of vehicle can deceleration and acceleration. So more complex like the signal intersections, so that is you need to consider more factors. So yeah, I think that's all the presentation can now my today's topic. Any questions?
All right. Thank you.
When you fit your model,
Mm-hmm.
the log model, usually I'm thinking statistical model, there's a concept of a fit and a residual.
Uh-huh.
What's your residual when you fit a model to a trajectory?
The residue?
Residual.
Yeah. The residue, I think the residue is actually very small. We have one indicator showing the root mean square error. This is showing the value, and this model is the dependent variable is speed, because think about it, the speed is around 15 miles per hour, but the root mean square is just 2.8. So 2.8 divided by 50 miles per hour is
So the root mean square of the difference in trajectories is what the residual would be?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's, if you use the percentage, maybe just 0.5% error. So I think it's pretty acceptable now. Any other questions? Thank you.